Hey, hello, I'm Kråkan, also known as Chorus Cornix, so welcome to Yacc, yet another Crowcast where I pick a game I played for a week and then I'll talk about it. This week's game is McKids for the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was released in 1992 and it's a two-player platforming game developed by Virgin Games and also published by them. And also be some spoilers up ahead just so you know, but first a little backstory. So the angry video game nerd made a review of this game a long time ago, and now it's my turn. So some call this game a hidden gem, others call it trash, so let's find out. At the start of the game, there are some company logos and some credits, and then you get to choose between one or a two-player game. So the plot of this game goes something like this. Two boys are out in a tent, Mick and Mack, and Ronald McDonald has his magical bag stolen by the Hamburglar. It's up to these two kids to basically deal with it, to help Ronald. And this game was licensed by McDonald's, if that wasn't obvious enough, and it came late in the NES's life cycle. So the first level of this game is called the Garden, so you collect these floating M's throughout the level and you also collect cards. So on the screen you have a big M that represents all the M's you collected so far, or I think the manual called them arches. Then you have a big L, which is life, and 3 hearts, and this game doesn't have a timer, so it's kind of nice. So the gameplay is kind of weird to explain, but you have these blocks that can be placed into wireframes of blocks that will make them into movable blocks that you can sort of interact with. There are also these arrow blocks that if you touch them, you will be flipped to the beginning of the stage. Sometimes it's useful, but more enough is just a problem. And then you have these wheel blocks, and I don't know what else to call them, but you run into them and you flip the sort of gravity so you can jump on the ceiling and stuff. And I also talked about collecting these cards. You need to collect a couple of cards to Donald's clubhouse in order to progress. And all of this just happens in the first level. The next level of the game is called Copper Grove. So this level shows more of the block mechanics. And I should also mention the springs that will launch the kid or kids throughout the level. And at the end of the first stage, you kind of enter it or leave it through a zipper door. And I don't know what that's about. I should also mention that the enemies of this game is kind of generic. They can only be hurt by throwing blocks at them. So in order to progress the game, you need to collect 4 cards and bring them to Donald's clubhouse. Then it's time for the next level, Lazy Leaves. And I find this level to be a bit tricky because it wasn't that easy to find the card in this one. And I should also mention that this game has a lot of blind jumps, often to the death of the characters. The next level is called Mountain View, and this level took me a minute because of the gravity mechanics and the block puzzles, just in order to get a couple of extra arches. So you can switch between each of the kids with the moon block. And I didn't know what triggered this, but apparently there was a bonus game at the end of the stage where you jump on arrows to reach the top. The next level is called Hidden Glen, and of course, collect cards is part of this level too. So the point of collecting cards and beating levels is to reveal a picture of Ronald McDonald on the stage select screen. Later at the clubhouse, Donald will tell Mick and Mack to head for Birdie, and she tells the boys to head to Grimace Land, if I can read my own handwriting that is, up in the clouds. So I played this game a bit longer, and I sat down, I put down the controller and asked myself a very serious question. Do I actually want to play more of this generic game, or do I move on and do something else with my day? And I choose to move on and do something else. So gameplay. Mick and Mack is sent out to find a magical bag that was stolen from Ronald McDonald by the Hamburglar. Control on the D-pad is movement, the A button jumps, the B button picks up things, and the start button pauses. Graphics. So the graphics are ugly at best, and there's something that's a bit off with the color choice here. It feels wrong and off-putting. Sound and music. Charles Deneen made the soundtrack for this game. The Garden track, the Hidden Glen, and the title theme is my favorite, or are my favorites. And it's actually surprisingly really good chiptune music. Easter egg seekers and glitches. So I don't know why this is a thing, but if you press start and select, you kill the main character and restart the level. Each of the games have a different composer, and it's kind of weird. The Game Boy, NES, the PC, Amiga, and the N64 and more. All different composers for some reason. So in conclusion, I wrote no. So at least the music is really good, and the game isn't that long. The control feels a bit floaty, and it feels like a discounted version of Super Mario Bros. The graphics are ugly at best, and more important, I didn't have fun playing this week. So there are also a lot of blind jumps, and I can't recommend this game. But what I do recommend is that you grab a burger and play Super Mario Bros. 3 instead, because that's a much better, thing to do with your time. So anyway, thank you for listening and for watching, and take care.